We are live.
Perfect timing.
And people are tuning in. So we're live today. So welcome to We've Got Issues, Girl. We are a weekly podcast for women who are curious about politics. My name is Carrie.
I'm Sky. And I'm sorry, I'm distracted because my dog is like freaking out. I'm not sure about what, but I'm Sky. And we are so excited to be joined by Erin Scott from the Ohio Women's Alliance. And so many other things. You do like a bunch of things in life. Can you tell us about your life and what you do?
Let me just give you the whole story. No. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I've been trying to listen to other episodes of the podcast to catch up and hear who you've been talking to. So yeah, I'm the co-founder of the Ohio Women's Alliance and the Ohio Women's Alliance Action Fund. So they're both nonprofit organizations. One is a C3 nonprofit, which is a more typical charitable nonprofit organization like a food bank or, a YWCA. And we really focus on capacity building and leadership development with women who are community builders, honestly. So that's folks who identify as a community organizer or an activist, or just a volunteer, like women who are making change and involved in civic engagement. And then on the C4 side, at the Action Fund, which is a little bit different than a C3. C4s are social welfare organizations, so you can actually endorse candidates, and they're not tax exempt, so they can do unlimited lobbying. Rhiannon Childs, who is our co-founder, is the executive director of the C4. And so that's where we're doing a lot of voter outreach this year and just trying to do a lot of voter education. So yeah, we do a lot of different things, but our team is growing, and 2020 is kind of the time to expand if you're doing engagement work with women. So yeah.
That's so great.
This is kind of a new organization, right? What kind of inspired you to get this started?
Well, Rhiannon and I came together. We probably met in 2017 or 2018. Both of us have been doing work in the nonprofit sector or in politics for a few years now. And we both really love women-centric spaces. We identify as organizers. We're people who are building relationships across the state, specifically with women and femmes. And we were like, where's the organization that supports people like us? Like, what about the community organizers who really need poured back into and need supported, who are doing this work? And also, women are not monolithic. I love the part of your website that says, women's organizations are not just about abortion access, and we care about more than reproductive health. It's all encompassing. We're not monolithic. And so we wanted to also kind of break down some of those silos between perceived like organizing spaces. Like if you work for environmental justice, you actually do work for reproductive justice, and you work for strong education and restoring democracy. So Rhiannon and I really came together to say, all right, we need like one organization that's kind of plugging women into each other across the state so we can support each other. And also as an organization, we wanted to create a space where we're resourcing women, like financially through, access to lifting them up on our platform, to meeting potential volunteers and donors of their organizations. So yeah, we really just wanted to create a space that's, first of all, capacity building and replenishing leaders, but second of all, what we've done this year, which is voter outreach. Trying to get women, more women registered to vote, more women showing up at the polls.
Yeah. It's awesome because I feel like our missions are both the same, like with our podcast and with your Ohio Women's Alliance. So it's great to have you on because we do kind of harp every week, I guess, that, we are trying to get more women engaged in politics. And that's why we started this podcast, just to maybe dive into the issues a little more that people don't generally, like you said, think that are women's issues, right? And because we always hear like, oh, women's issues, that's abortion and birth control. And it's not, though, because we are interested in so many things. And so you are really creating a really neat space for women too. And so that's really exciting to see. So what would you say is like the number one goal of your organization?
Ooh, picking just one.
I know.
That's kind of an important question. No, our number one goal is our people. We really believe in people power. So making sure that women, specifically women of color and Black women, are fully resourced to do whatever that civic engagement and community building work looks like at a grassroots level. That's really our theory of change, is that, building power in Ohio begins with an engaged constituency. We cannot have an engaged constituency if we don't have leaders who are doing that work. And women of color, specifically Black women, have been at the forefront of movement building. And so we need to develop more leaders. I love this term. I think the organization Repower uses it, uncover leaders, right? People who are doing the work, but maybe aren't getting recognition, and invest in them. So that's our number one goal, is like making sure our people are resourced.
Yeah. We have this conversation, I feel like, with a lot of our guests, is like, this question of why did you run for office for the first time? And a lot of people realized that they were doing all of the work of an elected official. And it was like, well, I'm pretty good at this. It's my turn to step up and step out. And it sounds like you guys are doing that work. How do people get involved with your organization? And what do you guys do do you have volunteers?
Yeah, we have a couple different levels of
engagement. I want to work for you.
Me too. In our membership. We have a membership space called The Cooperative, and there's actually an application to join online. Our website is just www.ohiowomens'alliance.org. And on our Get Involved page, you can engage with a couple of different options. Applying for the Cooperative, which is our membership space, which is probably like the most engagement you could have with us. Being a member means that you're someone that is actively doing work to build community wherever you are, and you're interested in building a relationship with myself, Rhiannon, the other members, and you've got a vision and a mission of your own that you're trying to achieve in your local space. So there's an application to join membership. Check it out and see if you fit. If maybe you're just looking for a volunteer opportunity right now in this moment, there's also a space like a Get Involved forum where you could join us, and we'll let you know when there's a phone bank. We do texting banks. We send out like social media toolkits so people have some like language to post. We're also really active in voter registration right now. The deadline in Ohio is October 5th. So there's a really simple tool called Reach. It's an app that you download to then kind of mass text friends and family about updating their registration. And then it's just one click over and over. So if you download Reach, use our code, it's CA4PBX. And I'll make sure it's in the chat in the Facebook Live too.
Okay, awesome. And I'll make sure it's in all of our show notes too, so we can get people to sign up for the cooperative, and then also to join Reach too, because Reach is something that I just learned about like the last few months, and it is a very cool tool to use, especially around voter registration. So you guys are really busy. You guys are all over the place.
Is it just for voter registration, or can you do other kinds of mass texts with the app?
Yeah, Reach is awesome. Reach can actually, if you are an organization that uses that app, you can add a couple of different actions within the app and choose like how you want your volunteers to engage. So right now, the action that we're asking people to do is check in with your friends and family, make sure they're registered. So that's the one that appears now. But after October 5th, we're going to be just about GOTV, which if you've heard is just the get out the vote time period where early vote begins in Ohio, and until November 3rd, we're just talking to people to say, hey, do you have a plan to vote? Did you request an absentee ballot? Are you showing up in person? Do you need a ride? So all of that support from October 5th to November 3rd.
Cool.
That's awesome. Sky and I decided through this podcast, because we had so many listeners reach out to us like, how can I get involved with this election? Like, what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I sign up to get involved? And so we are actually starts Saturday, 60 days of action. So we're going to send a little email newsletter out every day to people that sign up online. And so it's just one tiny piece of action every single day for 60 days until the election. So I definitely want to include what you're doing. We can include you guys on Reach. And so we can add to your Reach app. But I just think it's important. And so it's like, there's so much going on. If we we all streamline our, volunteers to one and direct them into one place, I think that'll make it easier, because it can be really overwhelming for people who are just starting to get involved or curious about getting involved. It's not always easy to navigate, especially in a presidential year when there's just so many voices, right? Like there's so many things out there. So
yeah, I heard Sally from the Matriots on your podcast a couple of episodes ago, and I think she kind of talked about the same thing for the Matriots, like deciding what is your lane as an organization and what's your purpose. And the Matriots, have been so great about being like, we're about endorsing candidates and we're about raising money for groups. And for us at the Ohio Women's Alliance, we're about pouring back into women who are grassroots leaders, and we're about taking direct action to get people more involved in democracy. And so it can be really overwhelming. And so I appreciate your kind of picking at us to be like, well, what's the one thing you do? Because when you're a voter or you're someone that's trying to get more civically engaged, it is overwhelming. It is.
Yeah.
Today, I'm pretty sure, is National Recruit Poll Workers Day. I feel like I saw a post about this somewhere. So that is something that I've always been interested in doing. I never am able to do it because I'm working on campaigns. But it's especially important this year when, with COVID, we Ohio experienced this with the primary in March. We need young people to work the polls. It's just crucial. So that's something I think we'll start encouraging folks to sign up to do nationally.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a really also tactile experience for folks who have maybe been in their homes for a long time.
Right.
I do want to lift up that there have been so many people who have been actively putting their bodies on the line out so many of the protests that have happened across the country. And so there are different levels of engagement that people have the privilege to participate in. And if you're someone that's been able to stay home and, you're healthy, now would be a great time to show up in person and, show up for the democratic processes that we have.
Yeah. So to talk about those protests a little bit, to pivot to the Black Lives Matter movement, we've had a number of guests on to kind of to talk about it, but you wrote a pretty incredible blog post that you shared with us, and it was called "Erasing Harm is an Act of Violence." Can you kind of explain where that came from? What prompted you to decide to write this? And then I'd like to just kind of talk about that further, because we all kind of are aware of the Karens out there, or maybe there are Karens in our lives. Like, we all kind of know what this term is, but your blog post really kind of talked about, what Karens are and how harmful they are. So what prompted you to write that blog post in the first place?
Yeah, what prompted me was reading the initial article that spurred a lot of the conversation around Karens, which was Karen Kirk's column, in which she said that being referred to Karen was dangerous. Being referred to as someone named Karen was a danger. I can't even say the sentence because I'm so agitated right now. And it honestly I lost it when I read that sentence, because the audacity of a comment like that could only come from a Karen. And listen, I'm a white woman. I'm one, consonant away from being a Karen. I'm Erin. And the behaviors that are instilled in all of us as white women with privilege, I don't think that they all go away. I'm going to be honest. And so I was really drawn to write this blog post to say, in this moment that we're in right now, this moment of devastation and state-sanctioned violence and nationalism, we do not need to call more attention to white women, right? This is not our moment. Yeah. And the very act of centering ourselves and this victim mindset is very much this Karen identity, leveraging our proximity to power to align with white supremacy, to act punitively towards other people, particularly people of color and Black folks. And so if you don't want to be a Karen, I would say you got to work on the victim mindset and step back a little bit and say, and is it really dangerous for someone to call me a name, a Karen in this moment?
Right.
I think just being able to like level set and pull back and say, maybe if I'm gonna say anything at all, it's actually not going to be about myself right now. It's going to be about the people of color in my community, Black folks in particular, who are having to watch on television over and over and over the murder of Black people by the police in our country. And so, yeah, I think it's really important that we have really open dialogues about what it means to have white privilege, to recognize it in ourselves, and to dismantle these narratives that reinforce white supremacy. Women as victims, particularly white women, that's going to keep reinforcing this idea that, you know, that we are kind of central to carrying forward narratives that say we don't have power. We have to recognize the power that we have, and our words have a lot of power. So that's why I really wanted to write the blog and just say like, whoo, now is not the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
And we continue to see this like Karen behavior from white women over and over. And sometimes I think I love how you say about being the victim or centering yourself first, because I see it so much, even in my own personal networks. Like, I think white women, at least in my networks, they want to help. They want to be on the right side of this movement, but yet like they still haven't figured out how to make it not about them and so I think like we just continue to make these mistakes and become Karens. And I think people are having a hard time navigating this. And there's also a fear of being a Karen too. I think, it's a fear. So like, how do you take yourself out of it? How do you not center it around yourself? How do you not be a Karen, basically?
Yeah. Well, I've got this book. No, but I really appreciate what you said about the fear, because that's actually, it's a symptom of white supremacy that's ingrained in us. And it's the fear to make mistakes. And so we actually do nothing or say nothing because we're so afraid we're going to make mistakes, when actually, haven't we all learned more when we've landed on our ass than when we've got it right? So I'm not saying, start, waving a banner that I'm anti-racist and I've got lots to say. But what I'm saying is we have to take risks, and like having this conversation live on Facebook right now, I'm a little anxious about, did I say some stupid shit already? I don't know. I'm going to go back and watch this, and probably I did. But that's a step, is like having the conversation and educating yourself. If you can take the time to like, get on Twitter, follow Black Twitter, read some great Black authors. Brittany Cooper's, it's escaping me now, Eloquent Rage was an incredible book that I absolutely love and recommend when friends reach out, kind of looking for a first step into, how do I get outside of thinking of just my viewpoint? Really highly recommend that. And just maybe looking for some people who are going to keep you accountable, because going on a journey, on your own to change anything in your life, it's always better to be in community with other folks, which is why Rhiannon and I, want the Ohio Women's Alliance, right? This cooperative membership space is so we can be in community with each other. So I would use the same practice as I were trying to explore what it means to be anti-racist and dismantle, my own white supremacist behaviors. Find some accountability partners and people who are interested in doing this work with you.
I think and that's key, is it's actual work to dismantle these infrastructural pieces of racism in our social network, in our own brains, and our the way we react to things. Those kinds of things have been so ingrained in us. It takes actual work to be anti-racist. And so, you can't let the fear or the idea of this hard, tough work paralyze you, because it's so important to reach, to jump over that obstacle.
Yeah. Sky and I did a talk for a local group here called Women of Toledo. And I don't know where they got this, but I love it so much because they talk about this. Before we even started our conversation, they said they told all the listeners and the viewers that this is not a safe space. It's a brave space.
Mhm.
And I love that so much because like, I think we often, think that, oh, it's a safe space. Like, no, don't judge me. Don't judge me. It's like, maybe we should judge each other a little bit, right? Like maybe this does take work and you're going to get judged for it, but like,
and it takes some bravery truly to call out people in your network, in your family, in your friend group, at your workspace who are, maybe a little bit racist.
Yeah.
You got to call that out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
For
it
sure.
definitely takes some courage and bravery.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, a thread within, white womanhood. Unfortunately, our proximity to power and upholding the patriarchy comes with being in silence and not speaking out and maybe not taking some steps forward in those courageous acts because we want to keep things on an even keel. And so I love Women of Toledo. Nina Corder is such a badass. And so I'm not into all that she teed up a really incredible space like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's important. And I see like Sky made a good point earlier too. I do see a lot of women who like don't typically speak up about these issues are now speaking up more and being a little more vocal on social media, which is then causing fights because they have people in their networks that are either very racist or like don't really understand the terms of racism or anything really having to do with racism. And so I kind of feel like sometimes I see women kind of stumble through it, right? And maybe get piled on in the comments by typically white men who get real defensive anytime anybody tries to bring up racist terms. How can you stay courageous in this fight? Like, how can we all not be a Karen, choose our battles wisely? Like, how can we stay brave together when sometimes it feels like we're outnumbered?
Yeah, I think, it's a point of privilege to be able to kind of choose how we engage, right? Because for other people, there is no choice. It's collective liberation or nothing. And so I do want to just recognize that. And I'll say, as far as the social media piece goes, we all have agency to decide how we want to engage with folks on social media. Whether or not you want to do the labor to really bring someone along, I want to encourage folks to have the capacity to do that, of like, we've got to get our people together. For me, like white men, I'm just going to leave white men where they are. That's someone else's work to do. I'm trying to build something that centers women's leadership. And I'm trying to lift up as many women in my network as I can. And so when I do see that family member or that person that's close to me where I'm like, hey, this person is my responsibility. I need to get my cousins. My friend Elsie Johnson, who runs Zora's House, I've heard her say this phrase before, like, please, white people, get your cousins. Yes, like we have a responsibility to do that. In the social media arena, like, okay, pick your battles, I think you said. But also we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and not causing white feelings. Like, I think I posted something on Juneteenth that ruffled my network because I said, dear white people, if you're planning on saying something today or making a grand comment about Juneteenth, just don't. Maybe don't. Maybe just don't take it
for you. Yeah.
And someone commented like, well, now I've been scared into silence. And it's like, come on. Well, what does that really mean, scared into silence for you? And I just think it was a reminder that we're all on different levels of our journey. And I get to decide, at a point of privilege, who I want to give my labor to, who it is I want to really get into the nitty gritty with. And so, I've got to get my family together, as I'm sure the two of you and people watching the podcast feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what you said, because we, even just doing this podcast, which is for women, that's our space. That's where we're trying to be, is talk to other women. we often have men viewers, which that's fine. You can watch. It's cool. But they often are critical of what we do, or they say or try to make suggestions. And I'm always like, okay, cool. But this is not for you. Like, this is not, it's not for you. This is for women.
Yeah.
Like, let us have our space. Let us talk. So it kind of goes back to the Juneteenth thing. Like, white people, like, this is not sit this one out. Like, it's not for you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, I mean, why do you feel like it's so important that people like, and who do you feel like it's important to get involved with an organization like Ohio Women's Alliance?
Well, I'll say right now, we're really looking for people who have the time to make phone calls, to join us, to text, and people who maybe don't have the time to do that, but have the means to donate. We would love a donation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. So if you go to our website, OhioWomen'sAlliance.org, there's the Get Involved tab where you can find all the different ways that you can engage. And, in the times of COVID, we've been forced to reckon with what does voter engagement look like when you're not on the doors, we say, canvassing. You can do this all from your home. We send you a link. You get on Zoom with us. There's like a group of 8 to 10 volunteers. We kind of tee up, and then you click on a link and the phone just starts dialing out. We're on track to reach 60,000 women of color and young people by November 3rd. And
oh my gosh,
awesome.
Yes, we're
all in Ohio?
In Ohio.
So cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
That's Rhiannon's work.
Wait. Tell me how this works. You're doing like a Zoom phone bank? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so we use this tool called Through Talk. And so it's all run through. Oh, this is where Olivia's watching, and she's our data manager. She's like, oh, Erin's trying to explain this. Not good. But it's all just run through this app. So you actually just get a link from us when you get on the Zoom. You click it, and then your computer will run the script for you in front of you. All you have to do is dial the phone number that's on the screen and plug in, and names will roll up. And once it's connected, the script just appears on the screen. You roll through it, and you click to the next call. And so you don't actually have to keep, physically dialing. It just rolls right through for you.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's really cool. And so it's just women calling other women for the most part,
that's
right?
so important. That's a huge piece of our theory of change, is that we need trusted messengers to speak to each other, right? Like, we need people who actually resonate with us to talk about why we're voting and showing up. Because some of the harmful, I think, messages during the racial uprisings have been, well, if you want change, go vote. And quite frankly, people have not felt like voting is a way that they're going to make change. People have been disenfranchised and feel like, actually, my voice doesn't matter, or actually, I need to feed my kid. And if I go vote, I don't see that happening for me regardless. So we try to really meet people where they are. And so having it actually be women on the phones talking to women and young people, we're working with these amazing organizers in Central Ohio who have been running the CPD out of CCS campaign, which is the Columbus Police Department, getting them out of the Columbus city schools. We've got young people talking to young people. It's important. Like, you just gotta make space for us to talk to each other. So that's what we're doing from now until November 3rd. So 60,000 phone calls by November 3rd. And we made 15,000 text messages last Friday in one session through text. Again, another tool where we're able to just log on Zoom together, click on a link, and the texts actually roll through your computer. And we're just having conversations with people right now about, are you voting by mail or are you voting in person? Great. Do you know where you're voting in person? Or have you tracked your ballot yet? And just trying to get people to have those conversations, to be planful.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's such a great word.
We definitely want to link to this, because we did an episode with our friends Brittany and Meredith, who have a podcast called Girls, and they asked us a lot of questions about like phone banking and what it's like. And I think for women who haven't been involved in campaigns or done a lot of phone banking, I think it's very intimidating, because you think of it as like, oh, you're going to call somebody and just like start an argument with them, right? Like, and you're going to like call some like Trumper and like try to convince them to vote for Biden. And that's not what phone banking is. And your phone bank seems like a really simple way to get started. You're just basically women calling other women, which seems the most comfortable for me, at least. And then just asking them what their plan is. Like that seems no fights. Like no one should be mad at that, right? Like you're not going to have any controversy.
We build the lists so that we're actually targeting the women who are the most likely to uphold the values that we espouse.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we're trying to center, that's women of color and Black women who have been at the forefront of the fight for collective liberation. And so we're trying to reach more women and women of color to get out and vote and participate through just starting those conversations and saying, what's your plan? So yeah, it's not very combative. Once in a while, I mean, like once in a while, you'll get a bad call or whatever, but you just kind of click and move on. It's not from your phone number. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, technology is so sophisticated with this stuff that you can really target down to, is this person on our side, like you said? And we've been doing it with campaigns for so long, and you get, unregistered numbers, and it's like, this is a waste of my time to go through this phone bank. You don't even have good numbers, but the data is so good now. I mean, we've been hearing across the board with campaigns that it's really an efficient way to use your time now.
Absolutely. There's a lot of good modeling that goes into it to see, who are we actually speaking to? Sometimes you might get a guessing game. It might be, an accidental call to a Burger King. I think one of our volunteers, but you say, okay, wrong number, and you move on.
Yeah.
Or you
order a Whopper.
So powerful.
Or you order a Whopper.
Right. Oh, can you deliver?
Yeah.
We'll take it.
No, I'm not joking. That's something that we're looking at for our volunteers is like the incentives now, because usually we would be in community with each other. We would you go and you phone bank together, like in a physical space, or you're canvassing and there's food and music. So we've been looking at like, should we be like sending a, DoorDash gift certificate or Starbucks or something? Cause we still want people to be having a good time while they're doing it.
I've heard of totally doing like scavenger hunts or like bingo cards. So like you have a bingo card and like Burger King, check that one out. You know what I mean? Like, so because you're right. Like pre-COVID, we would have all gotten together and phone banked from someone's house or from Democratic Party headquarters or something. And so doing it all virtually can probably feel intimidating if you're not with a group of friends, but what you're saying seems pretty simple. So I don't.
Yeah, we take time to train our volunteers. So really encourage first timers. If you've ever wanted to, do a phone bank or you don't even know what a text bank is, like all you got to do is sign up and show up, and we'll show you. And if it's not for you, we'll find something else for you to do.
Yeah, totally. So where can people follow Ohio Women's Alliance?
We are on Facebook, and we're on Instagram, and we're on Twitter. And we have two entities, the Ohio Women's Alliance and the Ohio Women's Alliance Action Fund. And the Action Fund is where a lot of activity is taking place because it's how we're really effectively reaching out to voters this year. So encourage you to follow us on Instagram. It's at Ohio Women AF. So Ohio Women Action Fund. And on Twitter, it's OH Women AF.
Awesome. Okay,
awesome.
We'll link to all those too. So before we head out, besides getting involved with Ohio Women's Alliance, what is one action item you would give our listeners?
Check your own voter registration and make sure that it's tight, but also check on your friends and family. Even if you could just pick like 5 people, just check in. Like, what's the harm in saying, hey, are you registered? Or, hey, I know you moved. Did you update your registration? Like, such an easy conversation. And like I said, I think at the top of the podcast, we use a really simple app called Reach that already has that whole script in there. So you literally just upload your contacts and you're pressing a button and sending that message. So download Reach, use our code. Again, it's CA4PBX.
Awesome. That's awesome. We'll link to all of this too, to make it super easy for our listeners to get signed up. And we'll include this in one of our daily actions too, that we're going to start emailing everybody. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.
This has been really
Thank
great.
you for being with us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And thank you for all
so
your work.
good.
This is really
Oh my
awesome what
gosh.
you guys are doing. Yeah.
Well, keeping the conversation going is a big part of it. So thanks for creating a platform for us to keep having these conversations.
Yeah,
For sure.
definitely. So thank you to everybody who tuned in today. I see Carly in the comments. And so thanks for joining us. We'll be back again next Tuesday for another episode of We've Got Issues Girl. Next Tuesday, we have Lori Olander on as a guest. She is running for the first time for Lucas County Common Pleas Judge. So we're going to chat with her to see what it's like to run for judge as the first-time candidate. Don't forget to like, rate, and review us on iTunes. That helps us out a lot.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Yes. Oh, and YouTube. I always forget YouTube.
We're doing it.
Follow us here on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, to get updates, and then to also find all the links to Ohio Women's Alliance. Also, that we'll keep posting. And then also, don't forget to sign up for the 60 Days of Action. It's on our website. We'll share the link again, and we'll also share the link of how you can get involved in those super cool phone banks that Erin is doing too. So, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you.